Okay, so we're in 6.5 linear inequalities, and now we're going to start solving them. There is one rule that you have to know, okay? If you divide or multiply by a negative number, you must flip the direction of the inequality. So here, we're dividing by a negative number, so before it was that way, now you have to flip it and it goes the other way, okay? So you have to remember that this rule, we have to remember that when we divide or multiply by a negative number, just flip, okay? So let's go and do some questions here. So let's start with question 3, okay? First, I'm going to solve it as if it's not an inequality, okay? You don't have to write this down, just watch. So if it looks like this, it's not an inequality, it's just an equal sign, okay? It's an equation. So here, if x wants to be alone, here's your best friend, here's your neighbor. Who do you get rid of first? Your neighbor. So this is minus 5, so you do the opposite, plus 5, plus 5. Okay, now you have 3x equals 12. Now this is 3 times x. What's the opposite of times? Divide. So I want to be alone, I got to get rid of the 3. So divide by 3, divide by 3. This is 1x equals 4, but the 1 can hide, so it's really just x equals 4. So this is exactly the same as this, but we just keep the sign as the inequality. So let's write it nicer, bigger. So here, x wants to be alone, here's the best friend, and here's the neighbor. Who do you get rid of first? The neighbor. So now I have 3x, see, it's the same. X wants to be alone, who do you get rid of, the 3 or the 12? The 3. And that's 3 times x, so you do the opposite, divide. X, that's 1x is bigger than 4, but 1 hides, so it's x. Okay, now we have to read it. From the variable, the letter, to the number, I go this way, I touch the big sign of the sign first, so it says x is bigger than 4. So I find 4. X is bigger than 4. Is that to the right or the left? X is bigger than 4. Bigger than 4. It's this way. Now, do I close the circle or I keep it open? Here, there's no equal sign. So it says we don't want 4, so we keep it open. Alright, so now we have to, this goes all the way up to infinity. So when I do my interval notation, it's 4 to infinity. Infinity always has a round bracket. Do we want 4? No. So we do a round bracket. Okay. Let's do question 2. So here, if it was just an equation, oops, an equation will be an equal sign. If x wants to be alone, who do you get rid of, the 6 or the 18? The 6. This is 6 times x, so I have to do the opposite, divide. Same over same is 1, so that's 1x equals negative 3. Okay, and the 1 can hide, so it's just x equals negative 3. So it's the same thing over here, but it's just an inequality sign. So here x wants to be alone. Do you get rid of the 6 or the 18? You get rid of the 6, because 6 over 6 is 1, but it's a negative 6, so make sure if this is negative, this has to be negative. Okay, so same over same is 1. This is negative 3. You go, oh, wait a minute. We are dividing by a negative number. When you divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign. So if this was this way, you have to now write it that way. That's the only difference. There. The 1 can hide. Now we have to read it from the variable to the number, the letter to the number. I touch the big side first, so that says x is bigger than negative 3. So here's negative 3. X is bigger than negative 3, bigger than bigger. Bigger goes this way, all the way to infinity. So interval notation, I'm going from negative 3 to infinity. Oops, that's a funny comma. To infinity. Infinity always has a round bracket. Negative 3. Do I want negative 3? No, there's no equal sign here. If there was an equal sign like that, then we would want it. But because it says it has to be just bigger than -3, we keep it an open circle. And so we don't want it, we use there. We say we don't want -3 because it's a round bracket. Okay, let's do the first one. So if this was an equation, what's the only number that hides? 1. If this was 2x equals 6, how would I solve that? Well, I know 2 over 2 equals 1, so I can just go divide by 2, divide by 2. There. And x equals 3. But it doesn't look like that. It's a -1. It's okay if it's a -1. You do the same thing. Same over same is 1. There. Okay, so even though it's a -1, we do it the same way. But it's not an equation here, it's an inequality. So what's the only number that can hide? Here, 1. Let's put it in. So if x wants to be alone, do you get rid of the 1 or the 3? Yeah, you have to get rid of that 1. -1, -1. Same over same is 1. So that's 1x. That's a -3. And then we go, oh, wait a minute. I'm dividing by a negative number. So I have to flip the sign. So this was this way, now I go that way. Then I go, oh, 1 can hide. And now I read it. I read it from the letter to the number, the variable to the number. This says x is smaller than -3. Smaller. X is smaller. Smaller. Is that this way or this way? Smaller is this way. Now do I want 3? There's no equal sign, so I keep it open. I don't want it. When it's open, it means I don't want the 3. So this goes from -infinity, or -3, all the way down. So the negative is on that side. The -infinity has to stay on the left, and then the -3 is on the right. Infinity is always round. -3, do I want it? No, so I use a round bracket. Round bracket means I don't want it. Square bracket means I want it. Okay? Let's turn the page, and we're going to do question 11. Okay? So let's write that out nicer. Okay. So, x wants to be alone. I have the best friend and the neighbor. Who do I get rid of first? Yeah, you keep your best friend. Get rid of the neighbor. This says +6, so I do -6, -6. So 2x is bigger than 8. Oh wait, do I flip the sign? Because that's a negative number. No. You only flip the sign when you divide by a negative number. See, look here. Here, see how it's like a fraction down below? That's dividing by a negative number. You only flip when you divide by a negative number. Here, we're subtracting a negative number, so don't flip it, okay? So now, x wants to be alone. Do I get rid of the 2 or the 8? Yeah, x wants to be alone. We have to get rid of the 2. 1x is bigger than 4. Wait, do I flip it because I'm dividing by a number? No, it has to be a negative number down here. It's okay, you don't change it when you're dividing by a positive number. You only do it when it's a negative number. So 1 can hide, so it's x, like that. Now I read it from the letter to the number. X is bigger than 4. Here's 4, and I'm going to go bigger. Oh, do I have to close it or do I keep it open? There's no equal sign, so it means I don't want the 4. I don't want the 4, so I keep it open. If I wanted the 4, then I would close the circle like that. But I don't want the 4. So this goes from 4 all the way to infinity. Infinity's always round. I don't want the 4, so, oops, I don't want the 4. So it would be round. Here, if I wanted the 4, it would be a square bracket. I want the 4, square. I don't want the 4, round. Okay. Let's do number 10. So here, I know that 3 over 3 equals 1. Here I have the bottom of the fraction, so I need to put the top of the fraction on. So let's write this out again bigger. So I'm just going to extend this line a little and put a 3 on the top. So now I have the 3 on the top. But if I do it to this side, I have to do the same to that side. So that makes it 1. So now I'm left with negative x is bigger than 6. Okay, what's the only number that can hide? 1, so let's put them in here. So x wants to be alone, so do I get rid of this 1 or the 6? Yeah, x wants to be alone, so you have to get rid of that 1. This is negative 1 times x, so the opposite of times is divide. And it has to be the same, so if this is negative 1, you have to do exactly the same. That's 1, and so I have 1x, and that's a negative 6. Oh, wait a minute, I'm dividing by a negative number. So I must flip the sign. So this went this way, so I have to go that way. Okay, 1 can hide, so it's really like that. So now I have to read it. Letter to the number. So it says x is smaller than or equal to negative 6. So negative 6, smaller. Is smaller on the left or the right? Smaller. X is smaller. Smaller is this way. Now it says x is smaller than or equal to. See that equal to? It means we want the negative 6, so I have to close that in. Check it. Yes, we want it. That's a check mark. We want it. So that goes from negative 6 all the way down to negative infinity. Infinity is always round, and we want the 6, so it has to be a square bracket. That tells me I want it. I always remember because this and this together look like an equal sign. Okay, when we have an equal sign, we have this. Okay, that can help you remember. All right, let's do number 12. Let me write it out. Nice. Okay, I want my letters on the left. So here's a letter and here's a letter. Who has to move? If I love my letters on the left. La 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 la, I love my letters on the left. Yeah, he has to move over onto the left. So let's move him. Now I have to put this 4x with the x because he has an x and he has an x. Don't put him with the 5 because these are like terms because they both have the x's. Negative 6x plus 5. Oh, that's a negative number. Do I flip the sign? No, it's only with divide. Like here, when you have that line with the divide, that's when you flip. Okay, so x wants to be alone, so here's the best friend and here's the neighbor. Who do I get rid of first? Yeah, get rid of your neighbor. Don't get rid of your best friend. You gotta get rid of your neighbor first. You love your best friend. Okay, x wants to be alone. Do you get rid of the 6 or the 30? Yeah, get rid of the 6. He wants to be alone. So this is negative 6 times x. What's the opposite of times? Divide. Same over same is 1. So that's 1x. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just divided by a negative number. Divide by a negative number. What do I have to do? Yeah, I have to flip. I have to flip that sign. So it was this way. Let's erase that and change it to that way. So now 1 can hide. So let's read that. Letter to the number. Variable. That's a variable. Variable to the number. I hit the big side first, so that's x is bigger than 5. Here's 5. Oops. 5, and I go bigger. Do I have to color in? Do I close the circle? Nope, there's no equal sign, so I keep it open. I go towards infinity, so that's 5 to infinity. Infinity is always round. We don't want 5, so I use a round bracket. Okay, let's look on this page. Let's do 15. Lots of brackets in there. Let's write it out. Okay, so whenever you have brackets, you say, oh, I gotta get rid of those brackets. So inside the brackets, can I go 5x plus 9 is 14? No, because 9 does not have an x, so I cannot put them together. Okay, that means I have to use the distributive rule. This times this, this times this. Okay, so that's negative 6 times 5 is negative 30x. Negative 6 times 9 is negative 54. Now let's check here. 12 minus 2 is 10. Can I do that? No, because 2 doesn't have an x. They are not like terms, so I cannot put them together. So I have to use the distributive rule here as well. Okay, so negative 3 times 12x, negative 36x. Negative 3 times a negative 2 is positive. Negative times a negative is positive 6. Now I love my letters on the left. So who do I have to move? The 30 or the 36? I love my letters on the left. Yeah, we're going to move him over there. So if he's minus, I do plus. Oops, let me use pink. I like pink. And where do I put this guy? Do I put him with the 54 or the 30? I have to put him with the 30 because look, he has an x and he has an x. They are like terms. There, that's gone. This, I have 36, but then I lost 30. I only have 6 now. Okay, so now x wants to be alone. Here's my best friend 6. My neighbor's a little far away, 54. Who do I get rid of first? My best friend or my neighbor? Yeah, my neighbor. So if he's minus, I do the opposite. Because 54 minus 54 is 0. That's how we get rid of them. So now 54 minus 4 is 54 is 0. Now that is 60. That's 6x. X wants to be alone. Do I get rid of the 6 or the 60? Yeah, the 6, because x wants to be alone. So same over same is 1. So that's 1x. Oops. Do I flip the sign? I'm dividing. No, don't flip the sign because this is positive. You only flip it when it's a you're dividing by a negative number. Okay, 1 hides, so it's just x. There. So I read it from the letter to the number. I touch the smaller side first. X is smaller than 10. So here's 10. Smaller than 10. Oh, it's that side. Goes that way. So 10 to a negative infinity. So if I want to do interval notation, negative infinity is on this side, 10 is on this side. Infinity is always round. Oh wait, do I close the circle? No, there's no equal sign. So x is less than 10. It means we don't want 10, so we keep it open. And we want to say we don't want 10, so we say round bracket. If we wanted, if it was closed, if there was an equal sign, then I'd put a square bracket. Okay, let's do 16. Oh, there's lots of stuff on this side. Let's just look at this side for a minute. Which terms can go together? Which ones are like terms? Yeah, this can go with this, but he's different. So let's put these guys together. I lose 9 and I lose 9. Oh, I lost 18. Okay, that's a little bit nicer. We simplified that side. We made it more simple. So I love my letters on the left. Here's a letter and here's a letter. Those are variables. I love my letters on the left. Who has to move? Yeah, this guy needs to move to the left. So if he's a minus, I gotta do a plus. And I'm gonna put this one, the 6x here with this 5x, because they both have x's and they're like terms. So 6 minus 6 is 0. So on this side I have a minus 9. I have 6, but I lose 5. I have 6, but I lose 5. Oh, I only have 1. Okay, so x wants to be alone. I have a best friend and a neighbor, because the best friend is close to the x and the neighbor's kind of far. So who do I get rid of first, my best friend or my neighbor? Yeah, get rid of your best friend. No, don't get rid of your best friend. Get rid of your neighbor, I mean. Don't listen to me. So So 18 minus 18 is 0. That's how we get rid of it. Always opposite. So I'm left with 1x. I have 18, but I lose 9. Oh, look. 1 can hide, so I'm already done. I don't have to do any dividing. Letter to the number. So I touch the big sign of the sign first. So x is bigger than or equal to 9. Bigger than, bigger than. Here's 9, and I go bigger than towards infinity. But do I close the circle? Do I want 9? Yes, because there's an equal sign here. So that means I have to close the circle. Yes, I want it. So now the interval notation, I go from 9 to infinity. Infinity is always round. Because I want 9, I need to do the equal sign. I need to use the square bracket. Oops, you couldn't see. Uh-oh. So I want to go from 9 to infinity. So here's infinity, 9. I want 9. It's a closed circle because there's an equal sign, so I have to use a square bracket.